just a little bit of background in case some of you haven't joined before. So I'm Kiki Stavros. I'm project manager for Mentor Môn on Dewi Smart Cymru, which is a Welsh Government funded project helping towns use data and technology to regenerate the high street. We've launched our Smarter Business series, and we've also just welcomed Mehdi to the team as our high street data advisor. Yeah, that's it. It's quite a title. So yeah, really glad to have Mehdi with us, and of course hosting our webinar today. So we are at 3 minutes past. So if you want to get started, Mehdi, and then yeah, other people can join as we go.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us this late afternoon, early evening. So this is my webinar on making the high streets work for businesses. There we go. So I'll just a little bit of so everybody understands my kind of experience. So I'm Mehdi. I'm originally from Anglesey, North Wales, and I have over 15 years experience in the shopping centre and town centre regeneration industry. I worked 1 year in outlet shopping in an outlet shopping centre in Doncaster, and then progressed and worked for a private development company who owned and managed their own centres as an assistant shopping centre manager. I then worked my way up in that company, became shopping centre manager, and then over time became operations director and looking after 7 of the shopping centres across the scheme, which are all in England. As part of that role, operations director role, I did a varied role, and one of those was to deliver kind of events and large scale events of up to kind of 50,000 people, which I'll go through in a bit more detail with you, and spent years looking after kind of my management team, security cleaning team, PR and marketing specialists. But most importantly, and I think relevant for this webinar, is I looked after and supported over 300 businesses at any one time throughout the portfolio. And those businesses were a variety of businesses, from national retailers and independent businesses, food and beverage, leisure operators, cinemas and bowling operators, and also office businesses as well. So really varied. Worked over the years with a number of dignitaries, such as the members of the royal family and the Prime Minister, showcasing the schemes. And I was a board of director for several companies. I was an executive director for the landlords who owned the shopping centres, and then executive director of the company who managed the shopping centres. In addition to that, I was a non-exec director of 2 other companies, which were all kind of linked to retail. Prior to my retail and shopping centre experience, I did 2.5 years of working at Anglesey County Council in the tourism department, and there I worked with a number of tourism businesses, restaurants, local producers, and worked with events, marketing and cruise ships over there. And that was after my 4-year degree in tourism. And as part of my degree, I worked in North America on 2 separate occasions, and one of those occasions was in Walt Disney World, and that also included retail. So that's a bit of a brief overview about kind of me and my experience. And this map just shows everybody kind of the 7 locations that I'm talking about. So this is the geographical locations: Northumberland, Manchester, South Yorkshire, Gloucestershire, a little bit in London, North Lincolnshire and East Yorkshire. So that was kind of the areas of my expertise for 7 years. So this year, in May this year, I launched my own company, which is MPW Making Places Work. And I have got 3 core values with my company, and that is to energize positive change, execute vibrant places, and to empower growth. And the empowering growth is really important to me, where I like to empower people, communities and businesses to drive their own businesses and towns forward. Since I launched, I was in touch with Kiki and the team, and I am now delighted to be their high street data advisor, supporting Smart Towns Wales with their initiatives up until March next year. So as part of this webinar, I'm going to be talking about how Smart Towns Wales can really support high street businesses over the next few months. So the aim of the partnership is to support all retail destinations in Wales, including high streets, town and city centres, shopping centres, retail parks and business improvement districts, to support individual businesses or groups located in town and city centres, such as business forums, to work with businesses and share the power of data when making decisions, and to share the data available through BT Active Intelligence with businesses and organisations, which I'm going to go into a bit more detail about shortly. I want to demonstrate with Smart Towns Wales how data or information, because the word data can be a little bit daunting for some people. I like to use it as kind of is information that we have, and how that can support businesses on the high streets in towns and city centres to make more informed decisions. And I guess the most importantly, the services through Smart Towns and myself is all free up until end of March. So the data that we have available that we'd like to share with you, and the consultation and the services is all free. So that's a bonus. And as part of this webinar, I want to talk about some of the outcomes that I want to achieve with businesses. I'm going to cover past examples, the BT Active Intelligence data that we've got, other data that's available for towns and high streets, and some case study examples, and how we can work together, what the steps are. So the outcomes and how we want to support businesses in utilising this data or this information that we have is to help businesses make more informed business decisions, and it's to help them solve problems, to also generate efficiencies and introduce cost savings, and to support with business growth. And that might be that some businesses on the high street might actually want to open a secondary unit nearby or in another town. So we can help with all of that, and to help businesses become more sustainable and increase profits. So that's kind of our objectives, our outcomes in terms of supporting businesses on the high street. So past examples, and just what I would like to share with you is how data has, over the years in those locations that I shared with you, how that has actually impacted and supported me in delivering campaigns, initiatives, and how that data has given me some really good results. So I'm going to share with you Morpeth Food and Drink Festival. And Morpeth is a lovely town based in Northumberland, and I was there for 6 years as centre manager. And as part of a joint venture that I did with the council, I relaunched a market, and soon afterwards, due to the success of the relaunch of the market, we launched a Morpeth Food and Drink Festival. That initially was a one-day event, and it soon became a 2-day event, attracting in excess of 50,000 people over 2 days. Now, the data that I collected, and this is a photo of the Morpeth Food and Drink Festival here on the right, the data that I collected from that event allowed me to do a number of things. It allowed me to secure some really good sponsorship from local businesses in the area. The event as a whole back then cost around £23,000 to put on. So sponsorship was really key to hold this event, and then other income was supported through stall fees and other in-kind offers. It enabled me to attract record-breaking footfall into the town. The town hadn't welcomed over 50,000 people 2 days before. So that was really good. I supported businesses and with their performance and takings. So I was able to understand business performance through my own shopping centre located here in the town centre, but it enabled me to support the whole town with their business performance and takings by putting on this event. It enabled me to target specific locations through targeted marketing campaigns. So I understood through having a shopping centre in the town who my customers were. But if I was putting on a 2-day event on with lots of activations and lots happening over the 2 days, I wanted to really attract people from further afield, or I wanted to attract maybe a particular affluent location that was nearby. So with data that I had with who my customers were and where I wasn't attracting from, I was able to target those specific locations through the data. And through all of this combined, it made the event a self-funded event and established itself as an annual event that went on for 7 years. It stopped with COVID, and it is, I believe, about to kind of restart again. But the power of data with this, because I was able to share, for example, with a £10,000 sponsorship, how many people I had, where they came from, what was on offer, what the interaction was in terms of digital performance and digital engagement on digital platforms in order to secure some really good sponsorship. The second is the data sharing. Out of the 300 businesses that I was supporting within the portfolio, I understood how 90% of them were performing through basically the businesses voluntarily sharing that information with me. It was really important for me as a centre manager or even an operations director to understand how the retailers in my centre was performing, for me to do a number of things, which were to understand which categories were and sectors were performing well. So this could be fashion, food and beverage, health and beauty. So I understood better which sectors in my centre was performing. I was also able to identify which categories were struggling or underperforming and needed extra support. So what I did with the businesses who were perhaps underperforming or struggling is I put together a 3-month strategy to support them intensely on a weekly basis to ultimately transform those businesses from a position where they were not making profit to making profit. And I was able then to understand which individual businesses were opening new stores or expanding, because the more I understood how the businesses was performing, the more strategically I was able to support them and understand what the overall vision of the company was, whether they were expanding in nearby towns or whether they actually wanted to expand on the same high streets. So data sharing in terms of business performance allowed me to really support those businesses effectively and in a really strategic way.
Can I just ask there, Mehdi? So I think it's really interesting. The businesses that were like, obviously you had a kind of almost top level view of how everyone was doing. Were those businesses aware how they were doing compared to other businesses? You know, obviously you know if you're struggling, but maybe you're not aware where you sit in the bigger picture. Did that come as a surprise to some of the businesses?
Yeah, I mean, if they were asking in terms of, oh, how's, food and beverage generally doing on the centre, I would share like the overall figures with actually everyone's trading up on last year or everyone's kind of trading on par or below. And when I was hosting kind of tenant meetings where we're all coming together, and maybe it was kind of quite an open tenants meeting that I used to hold, people were quite open with how they were sharing, and especially as well, maybe with the fashion sector, they always wanted to know how other fashion operators were performing. And whereas I wouldn't go into detail with specific turnover figures, I would share generally this is how they're performing, and that was really useful for them to benchmark their own stores.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, thanks for that.
No problem. To touch on crime, so After COVID, when I went back to work after maternity leave, I understood that crime, antisocial behaviour, theft and violence was kind of a big issue that we had throughout the portfolio. And it was one of my key priorities to deal with this issue, as it was impacting heavily on the retailers, but also on the shopping centre. And the first thing I needed to do in terms of data was understand the severity of the problem. So I worked closely with my kind of centre management teams on each site, and we gathered the data in terms of what was actually happening on our schemes. And by that, I mean we were logging all incidents that was happening on the site, and that included the ones that was being logged to the police and the ones that were not being logged to the police. And we also worked really closely with all the businesses to gather information from them as to how much crime they were experiencing in their store, and also what the stock loss was. And with some retailers, the stock loss was huge. So over time, gathered all of that information, and also in terms of incidents that was happening on the high streets, in the bus stations, and to paint a really clear picture, which was factual, of what was happening. Once I had all of that data together, I was then able to share that with the policing team, MPs, Police and Crime Commissioner, schools, housing associations, and local authorities. And by having that firm evidence and data together, that enabled us to work in partnership and put things in place to prevent or certainly reduce the crime levels that was happening. And I absolutely believe that without that data and pulling all of that together, we wouldn't have been able to have that support that we needed from the police and from the housing associations to support us with this problem. We agreed a strategy. I implemented certain things, but really it was kind of the policing around on the streets, transport police and bus stations, and lots of, and everybody coming together was what we needed to solve this big issue. And then lastly, to introduce sustainability initiatives. So using data has enabled me over years to implement lots of kind of green initiatives throughout the schemes. And that was, one of them was to review utility bills to ensure best value and to introduce savings within the business, and to support retailers with that also. Introduce electric car charging points to enhance customer experience and generate revenue, and also to reduce general waste and to recycle more, and reviewing the data that's coming through from this, and to reduce the amounts that's going into landfill. And also to review and analyse the water usage within the scheme, and to make sure that this is reduced in terms of time and cost. We introduced water harvesting systems and various things to operate businesses more efficiently and effectively. So Smart Towns Wales, so how can we help high street businesses? So firstly, I wanted to talk through the BT Active Intelligence data that we have to share with you and to support you in your decisions and with your businesses. So the BT Active Intelligence data is location insights. It's a platform powered by mobile network data taken from EE mobile phone devices. So EE have data for roughly 24 million people in the UK, which equates to about a third of the population. So when we're looking at this data, we're looking at about a third of Wales data coming through, and that's kind of quite a robust, strong sample that we have. Data is then analysed to provide trends around population movements and demographics for any area of the UK. And BT is providing this data to Smart Towns Wales to enable BT to understand more about visitor patterns. So BT gain a lot of information from this, but also Smart Towns, us as a team, get lots of information from it. And what we want to do is then share this information with businesses and decision makers on the high streets to support and to support businesses to grow and to become more sustainable. So a number of the information that is available to businesses is the footfall data. It allows you and us to view seasonal trends, peak days and times, and how long people are spending in your high streets. Customer insights also, so it provides breakdown of people when the selected locations. So this includes the demographics, age, gender, and spending packages. And also the catchment insights in terms of where people are coming into your high streets and how often. So I'm going to share some insights that we've got here, and this is from Bangor High Street. So within this data that's available, and this is available throughout for everybody in Wales. And when we put Bangor High Street into this platform, this is the catchment that defines Bangor High Street. As some of you may know, Bangor's got the longest high street in Wales, but this doesn't include the whole high street as such, but it includes the kind of the core, what we define as the core high street. And then it shares the footfall insights. So this is data from the last month, from 24th of October to the 23rd of November, and it provides a pattern of movements of when the busy times are, when the quietest times are. This peak here was October half term. Sundays are the quietest days in Bangor on the high street, and then Fridays and Saturdays are your busiest days. But this does change depending on what is happening on the high street. And this data is available, you can compare it. So this particular data is available for this period of time, but it can also be viewed for the last quarter and for last year. So to compare November this year against November last year, which I think in retail terms is really kind of quite interesting when we compare figures and performance data. So this is one of my favourite what's available within this platform is the catchment areas. So this catchment area identifies kind of your core catchment, which is just this bit here in the middle, and then the darker shader then is the secondary catchment, and then it goes out to the third catchment, which is a bit covering the wider area. So this is the people that's come directly into Bangor High Street, into that core catchment area between the 1st of October and the 31st of October. And this is again really interesting because this changes. It changes every week actually, but it changes every month with seasonality. And what is really interesting is those people that's not coming into Bangor High Street, you're able to identify maybe more so west of Anglesey, and this area here, they're actually not coming. So that is, to me, is an opportunity. Also shares with you the peak visiting hours, Monday to Sunday, and the times here. And again, this is available throughout Wales. The high footfall, which is the darker shade here, and the lighter shade in this area. There's a bit more activity on a Friday and Saturday night, as you would expect. And it also shares with you the kind of core hours here and when things start to get busier and when things close down. Not close down, sorry, it gets quieter. And it also shares kind of the income bracket or within the catchment. So if we're looking at this, you've got 10, which is kind of your most affluent area, and 1, which is kind of fairly deprived areas. So it's fairly up and down, but number 7, which is considered fairly affluent, covers is quite high for Bangor, for those visitors coming into Bangor and in that surrounding area. So that's really useful information if we're wanting to share that with brands or people wanting to invest, take a unit within the high street. This is kind of the spend bracket within the area. So I wanted to share also other data, other platforms available for businesses. Patroom is a company that collects data from Wi-Fi and data sensors. Patroom, I think they're covering the majority of Wales now, but there's an open data that's available for Bangor, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. And this is tracked, and this is for the week of the 3rd of November to the 9th. sorry, the 9th of November. And the dark blue sections here measures people that have been into Bangor High Street for 20 minutes or less. Then you've got the lighter blue from 20 minutes to an hour. Then the green is 1 hour to 6 hours. And then the yellow ones are 6 hours plus. Could be residents, could be people working there for longer than 6 hours. So this is also available, and I believe this is available for many locations in Wales also. And then you've got the digital marketing, so your social media, your websites and your affiliated sites that's surrounding your businesses and your high streets. This is an example, Bangor Eye. Facebook, he has just under 21,000 followers. And it's really interesting to promote local businesses and congratulate them on this platform. And then they get lots of engagement and publicity from the back of that. And it's always really interesting to understand actually how beneficial that has been in terms of raising awareness of a business or driving traffic into stores. And then, of course, you've got your other data, which is general footfall. So that could be footfall in shopping centres and individual stores, population figures, trade for performance, which I've mentioned about, and employment and any investment, any inward investment in the area, crime stats, markets, how often are markets happening, and events. And all of that brings together lots of different information to analyse. And I always like to, if I'm supporting businesses on the high street, I like to have a look at different types of data sets that's available. So we've got the BT active intelligence data, but if you're looking in Bangor's case, and this is the case with many locations in Wales, there's lots of other data available. And when we're pulling all of that together, it makes a really interesting insight into how what is actually happening on that high street and what. Wanted to mention also that there are some funding available for data infrastructure within Wales. And what we, Smarter Towns Wales, would encourage businesses to do is to speak to local authorities, towns or city councils and councillors to look into if there's any funding available in your areas. These can support with the installation of footfall counters, Wi-Fi infrastructure, pollution monitors, which again is really interesting, and weather monitors. And all of this information adds to the existing data that we have and that's available in those localities to really analyse things a little bit better. And I've just put at the end, it's always worth asking if there's any funding available for this kind of infrastructure. So I'm going to go through a couple of scenarios now using this data and how that could actually support high street businesses. So I'm going to use this example of a coffee shop in Bangor, and the problem is rotas. Maybe a coffee shop in Bangor can't just get their rotas right. They may be overstaffed, they're understaffed, or, you know, they're not quite getting it right, and is trying to understand what is happening, what are the patterns and seasonality with that to help and support in terms of putting rotas together. So what does this information tell us here? It tells us that Sunday is the quietest day of the week in Bangor, although, you know, there are people around, but it's quieter compared to the others. Monday is less busy than the other weekdays of the week. So only darker spots here, but actually the Monday footfall is busier until up to 6 o'clock. And really there's more footfall coming into the city from 8 a.m. and then picks up again at 9 a.m. quieter after 5. And this information is for the last month, but also can be reviewed if somebody's putting rotas together for January, February, the summertime, or even when there's events. So if there's an event that's happened and perhaps not got the rotas right, have a look at that data from the event over the summer and see how that impacted this and how that differentiated in order to get the rotas right. So this can help with producing staff rotas to minimise wastage. You can use this data to review opening hours. And we can use this data to work alongside other useful information and data available, such as till transactions, footfall, or Wi-Fi connections, and it's to make the business more efficient and profitable. So this is one example of how a coffee shop can use this data to tweak their rotas. So marketing campaigns. So I've used this example because we've just had Black Friday weekend. So this is a shop on the high street that wants to offer 30% off for Black Friday weekend. And the aim of this campaign, this marketing campaign, is to attract new customers. Always nice to offer 30% to existing customers, bread and butter, to thank them for their custom all year, but also a great opportunity to attract new customers and bring new people into your store. So what does this information tell us? It tells us the core catchment, the secondary and the third, including, and with this information, we get a list of postcodes in terms of where these people have come from into the high streets. But it also tells us who doesn't come into Bangor High Street, who are maybe located fairly close. So if I was looking at this, and it's really interesting when this changes month on month, week on week. But when I've looked at this over the last couple of months, there is a place here called Llanfair PG that never seemed to come into Bangor High Street. And it's really kind of quite funny because Llanfair PG is 10 minutes drive away from Bangor High Street. But the data tells us they don't really come to Bangor High Street very often, if at all. So that is an opportunity where if we were looking at a marketing campaign and we said, right, we want to pull some new people into this particular store, that is how one way as how you could target your advertising in that village, in that town, to draw them in. And that could be done through kind of social media engagements and targeting posters and media publications. But in terms of measuring this, it's really interesting because it's important to really measure what we do to identify if it's actually delivered the outcome that we wanted. We could measure that through customer feedback. So when customers are coming into your shop, you'll be able to ask them, have you been with us before? Where did you see us advertise? You could collect postcodes from customers, engagement on digital platforms such as your social media, and can also review this catchment again to see if that's actually changed. So if this is November data, so maybe this is October data, we can review that again in December or even maybe January to see if targeting the specific areas has actually worked. How can decision makers help and support you? And that one area is data sharing. So over the years, I've been really lucky to form lots of fantastic relationships with lots of businesses who have been very open, voluntarily open about their business and how they're performing. And it would be great to share that data, perhaps with town centre managers, business improvement districts, shopping centre managers, or business forums to support and grow your business. Or even if I appreciate the confidentiality aspect of this and not wanting to share too much in terms of turnover data, but even sharing, this is how I'm performing against last year, I'm performing up on last year, or I'm performing down on last year. And that really paints a really good picture as to how a town centre or a high street is performing. The decision makers then can really review the category performance in terms of what is performing well on our high street. Is it food and beverage? Is it home? Is it fashion? Or is it health and beauty? And what I would do with the decision makers and the town centre managers and support network that's in your locality is to ask them to further support, further share the footfall information they have with you as a business, and to also to share the catchment information they have and the social media statistics and the website traffic, because I think it needs to be a two-way conversation where you would share your information, business information with them, but they would also share with you a bit more information about what is happening with the access that they have to websites, to affiliated sites, to e-newsletter signups to further support your business. If we're integrating that then with the business data and the BT intelligence that we have, it can be really, really powerful to help strategize the best support and how to take that high street and town centre forward, and how to also raise a profile. And the better they understand your business, the more effectively they can help you. And I've certainly found that over the years, where the better I understood businesses and their models, the better then I could introduce them to network or put strategies, really effective strategies in place. So ask for support and ask to be involved with campaigns and events. And then events, I love events. I think they bring places to life. I think they open lots of opportunities, and it's a great way to thank your existing customers and also entice new customers into high streets and localities. And of course, to drive large footfall and raise awareness of a location, especially in the run-up to Christmas, a really important time of year where there's lots of competition, is trying to get in front of people entering into Q4, September, October, and to really raise awareness of an area and for them to come back and support local businesses at the really busy time of year. So for businesses, it's a great opportunity for brand awareness, to gain extra trade and to establish new customers. And what I would suggest and advise really is to engage with the organisers and get your business involved with events that's happening in the high street, in the town centre, or even in the area. Decorate your shop front and stand out, and engage with all marketing that's involved as part of the event, and ask for your business to be involved with it. Because if you're participating with the events, it's an opportunity then for you to really engage and to showcase your business, and for your business to benefit from that marketing platform that they are promoting. And partner up with other businesses. There may be other businesses that you get on really well with on the high streets. One might serve cheese, one might sell wine, and you do a cheese and wine. There's lots of different opportunities, but really it's an opportunity. And I've been involved with businesses over the years where they've had live mannequins in the windows just to really create interest, or decorate the shop fronts, or the food festival, for example, serving food and drinks inside the store just to entice people in, but entice new customers that wasn't aware that you were there before.
Can I just sorry, Maddie, can I just raise a point on that?
Yes.
So it's Rachel from Bay of Colwyn. I think it's a really important point you make about maximising the opportunity of events. And in my experience, I was really fortunate to run lots of events across North Wales and some of the most major ones. And those businesses, for example, we used to host the World Rally in Conway. And businesses, for example, like a cafe who would make biscuits that, you know, either had the flags of the teams on, or they had the car structure. Those were the ones, any business that interacted with the audience and their particular passion and sport were always the ones that did really well. But interestingly, you know, you've talked about how, you know, businesses can maximize the opportunities. I guess, you know, I don't want to be negative because this is about positivity, but also in my experience, it's very hard sometimes to get businesses to understand that keeping open for a couple of hours might not actually be that cost effective for them. But what it does is mean that when somebody comes back on holiday, and we've had statistics that have shown where we've had Tour of Britain and hotels haven't necessarily benefited greatly on the day, but post-event they've had sports tourism, because people who love Bradley Wiggins and, you know, Mark Cavendish have gone round the Orme because those, you know, top, you know, notch people have done it themselves. It's really hard to get businesses sometimes to understand about, it's not just about the night, it's actually about their profile. It's about, as you say, linking into the activities. Those that do it really well and see the benefits. Those on the periphery are always ones that you're trying to sort of get to come into the fold, I guess. So I just wanted to say, yeah, absolutely, it's very much behind what you're saying. So
no,
Brilliant, thank you. And I completely agree. And I think definitely the ones that engage the most, they really see the benefits. But also, yeah, it's about convincing everybody that there's a bigger picture here, and it's about enticing those customers to come back and shop with them and support and go into those stores at a later date. So I just wonder whether we can share some examples of actually where this is worked really well for other businesses, and maybe shared that information with others to try and entice them a bit more. But I do appreciate it. It is difficult sometimes to encourage everybody to stay open a little bit later, just to benefit and to think of the long-term benefits, really. Thank you. And yeah, just to mention, to really the footfall counters measure kind of success. And I think, again, it's sharing. Sometimes when you share figures with people, it does actually make people stop and think. So with the Morpeth, for example, 50,000 people over 2 days. Wow, that's a lot of people. Actually, it's worth engaging. So maybe the footfall counters, the data of the footfall that we've got with everything, can maybe actually be like a convincing a factor to make people actually think twice. We can have a look at those case studies and put that together, and also compare footfall counters in retail stores, and business review and business performance. And this is why I strongly believe that sharing information in terms of how businesses do perform, it's actually it's nice to kind of share that, and for it to benefit other businesses as well. Website and social media data. I mean, you can easily reach thousands of people on social media now. It's so impactful and so quick. That is really kind of creates a big impact with businesses as well. Car park statistics and usage is really another way we can measure from events, and customer feedback from existing and new customers. And that could be through customer feedback on the high streets, through the retail stores, and also social media as well. So next steps. Groups or businesses forums. So we're asking, we would love if businesses or groups on the high streets in towns or city centres could get together and think of maybe a vision or a problem that you would like our support with. What we'd like to do, completely appreciate, is it's such a busy time of year now on the high streets, but certainly thinking about how you think we would benefit, and the vision and the problems. And in the new year, we would love to come and see you. I love to meet people face to face, but if that's not possible, we can always meet on Teams and discuss different opportunities and how we can support, and how we can use this data that we've got to help create that vision and deliver the visions, and create and help solve maybe some problems that there are. So the email address is smarttowns@mentormorn.com. That takes people through to the team, which is myself, Kiki and Sarah, and then we can come back to you and organise a Teams call or a face-to-face meeting. But I like to think of the new year as the start of the year, to think about, right, what do we want to achieve as a business? What do we want to focus on in 2025? What do we want to achieve? Where do we want to take this business? And it's a really good time of year actually to sit down and to talk to different businesses and think about, right, how can we help you deliver that in 2025? So yes, please get in touch. And that's me, and would love to answer any questions anybody's got now about anything I've maybe discussed, or anything maybe that I haven't discussed. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Mehdi. That's great, and great to see lovely networking in the chat as well. So we've had a couple of comments as we've been going. Sorry, Jan, let you go.
Oh, that's all right. Well, I was you were just about to say about stuff in the chat. So yeah, I suppose somewhere way up on the chat, I just asked on the, what was it I asked? Something about one of the slides. I think it was the Oh, what did I ask? It was just to maybe just look at a little bit more detail on one of the slides. I just wanted to understand how the graph was derived. What was it? The
Oh,
income
so
bracket
the
graph.
income
Yes.
bracket.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like a sort of histogram, if you like, but I don't know whether it was because there were a series of catchments. I think it was 1 to 10 was the horizontal axis, and maybe each of those figures was a geographical catchment, was it? Is that how that graph
No,
was derived?
so that graph is so the zero line. Sorry, Mehdi, are you okay to bring the income decile slide back? So
Yeah.
what it is the kind of baseline is the UK average, and each of the 10 categories represent income deciles. So the income decile comes from ONS data,
Yeah,
with number 1 being the most deprived and number 10 being the most affluent. So compared to the UK baseline in
yeah.
this graph, obviously the kind of the 7th most affluent group is really overrepresented, and most of the rest are kind of underrepresented.
Right, okay. Yeah, it was just, I suppose I
Does that
just didn't
make
have
more
the
sense?
scale on that horizontal. Yeah, it does now. And I understand the geographical catchment was the same because it's Bangor High Street. That was yeah, that's the space, isn't it? But you've got a number of different people of different wealth, if you like, or different income levels. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what was that? Because because the axis isn't labelled, but I mean, would you know what that income bracket was just off the top of your head? The highest one there, because I know
So
it's the 7th, but what was the
I've
range, if you
tried.
like?
I don't know on that, to be honest. I have tried to find statistics on what that is. It is quite vague, so we need to find out really how the ONS work that out. So
Yeah.
I'll add that to the to-do list. But it was I don't know if I think you do know Bangor, don't you? But this
Yeah,
was
I
a
do.
real,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a shock to me because I think the kind of overwhelming assumption really is that there aren't high spenders in Bangor. So it is really interesting data for these businesses to have,
Yeah,
to kind
definitely,
of challenge
definitely.
assumptions.
Yeah, it's probably a very relatively wealthy hinterland of people who come in to spend in Bangor. There's university staff, and then I guess there's AN others on that sort of grade that are the students of the city. So, yeah, interesting. But thanks. That'd be useful to well, it'd be interesting to see for some of our towns as well. So that's why I was kind of bringing it up, really. Who are the spenders in what sort of brackets, and
Yeah,
who can we
definitely.
expect? Yeah.
And
Thanks.
I've seen your email as well, Jan. So we'll set something up soon to take a closer look at
Yeah,
Pembrokeshire
brilliant.
towns as well. Be really interesting after having been down there recently as well to
Yeah.
see what those profiles are.
Yeah, thanks so much. That's brilliant.
Thank you. I think most of the comments in the chat have been people wanting to set up a session with you, Mehdi, so that's really great to hear. I think most people have at some point asked for sessions, so it's really good. Yeah, how would you like to see data for Polycad? I said we will show a little bit on BT if we've got time. So I'll just make sure that we've addressed all the other questions as well. So we will be sharing the slides and the video. And yeah, I've sent emails to Howard and Rachel to make sure we'll be in touch. Oh yeah, lovely comment about the place plan in Bay of Colwyn as well. Yeah, so I think that was all of the questions. Don't know if anyone else has a question they'd like to ask kind of in person or pop into the chat.
Can I just ask a quick one?
Of course.
What does the consultancy look like in terms of how much do you have? Or is that asking how big the problem is, I guess? So we've got a business forum who are getting more and more active, and like lots of forums we all experience, they've got a number of key players who are doing the hard work. So my first sort of thought would be they would love to get involved in this. I've already spoken to the chair, and I don't think she's online tonight, but she was hoping to come. But So what does it, is there a set amount of time, I guess I'm asking, or is it quite flexible?
In terms of time, I think, well, we've got between now and end of March, and I need to cover as many places as I can in Wales. So I guess it's what I would suggest to be kind of more maybe strategic is to get everybody together in Colwyn Bay, and we can come over and we can have a workshop, an afternoon or a morning with everybody and kind of talk through the data, understand maybe what the problems are or what we want to focus on, and then we can maybe do another follow-up session afterwards. Because I can pull together kind of case studies and examples of how we can support, so I can put that together as part of Smart Towns. But I guess it just depends on how thinly we need to be spread across the country,
I
Kiki.
think just
Yeah.
hearing that approach makes it easier for me to go back to the group to say we'll put on a workshop, and then from that there'll be a feedback session. So that's really useful. Thank you.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Maddie. That's a really good answer. And I think what I would say is that at the moment, it's kind of an open door. So the sooner you get in there, the more support that you will get, basically. And I did mention in the chat as well, we are really hoping that this program will be extended beyond March. And this will very much be the focus of that future program if and when it happens. So yeah, hopefully we won't just be abandoning you in March, but obviously that's not in our hands. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Someone is typing there, so I'll just give it a minute. So we have just got 5 minutes. So I'd probably say that's not really enough time to do a live demo at this point, but we will be in touch, Howard, about coming to Caergybi, Holyhead, and yeah, with everyone else who has got in touch as well. So yeah, thank you for attending. Thank you for all your contributions, lovely comments. And yeah, we'll circulate the slides and the video as well. So yeah, like please feel free to share all of this information with any of your contacts as well. You know, with your business forums to get a kind of taster. And yeah, just spread the word really. So yeah, thank you all.